In our headlines, Human Rights Commission advises Parliament to go slow on safe houses. In Parliament, Olanya Atwine disagree on public service. Kawesi murder suspects rearrested outside court. Malaba police stranded with Congolese refugees. And on issues of Pan-African Conference tackles state burden. Welcome to News Tonight. Let us start off with the Mpango celebrations. The Omukama of Toro has blessed the occurrence of his 24th anniversary as King of Toro. The king blessed the rituals performed before him as a sign to show that he is still in charge. The king today marks the climax of all activities the kingdom has been undertaking in the fields of health and saving River Mpanga and many more, as we hear from Edward Rikidi Kijanangoma.
Hello there, and this is UBC TV. We are still here at Karuzika Palace, where Omukama Oyo Nyimba Kawamba Iguru the fourth has actually been here to, preside over the Mpango celebrations, and we have seen a lot of things that have been going on since morning, and this afternoon we saw him actually sitting on the throne, and so many other things took place. There was the drumming of the drums, and 9 in number, and those signify something that the people should actually know.
He's exercising it as an indicator that he's still a reigning king. That's why they were bringing each drum of his ancestors, named and after their names. So you hear someone was trying to celebrate it, says, we still require you as your majesty. So he's yet to name his own drum. It is a tradition, like any other cultures, I hope. A cow is a big symbol of the cultural inheritance. And the cow, out of the cow, there are many things. So he is more or less appealing to his subjects to graze cow.
And with me right now, I'm with one of the regents who actually brought up King Oyo. You remember that King Oyo sat at the front when he was only 3 years old, and he had to be brought up by some elders, and one of them is the person I'm standing right to.
Oh, this young king was very joyful. From his young age, was ever joyful, playful, and he loved dogs, specifically dogs, and we had to bring dogs here. He loved dogs, he loved gaming and playing until he went to school here in Kampala and in England. Now came back of the age. We have been coaching him, the culture of Toro, his roles as a king and the duties and roles of the king. So he's now fully brought up and is controlling his kingdom very successfully.
And yeah, we are still here. However, those are some of the key events that took place here this right from the morning, and now it is evening time. But remember that the celebrations actually have started, because in the evening we shall be dancing here, the traditional dance, that is Amakondere, and also tomorrow we shall begin at church, and that is the church service as the minister has just said, but also we'll be coming back here for the official celebrations. Thank you so much. My name is Edward Rukidi, Kijana Ngoma.
And of course, that was the Mpango celebrations there in Toro, as the Omukama of Toro was marking 24 years as a king. Now over to Parliament. Deputy Speaker of Parliament Jacob Olanya has warned government technocrats against fortifying legal procedures while conducting public business. Olanya's warning follows remarks by Permanent Secretary for Ministry of Health Diana Atwine, whose faults public service standing orders for what she calls derailing service delivery. The two government principals disagreed during the national closeout workshop for the Governance Accountability, Participation and Performance Program, one of the USAID and DFEED aided program.
That I saved here and I paid the arrears that we had accumulated and then I have to go and answer.
To what extent do government technocrats need to go beyond legal procedures to ensure a change in service delivery? How unlawful is it to divert public funds for initiatives different from those initially allocated?
So that is one disease that we must address as government. If we are going to make changes in our government, in service delivery, we must go beyond the legalities. We must look at the better good, the greater good, and the result.
These were some of the concerns raised by Permanent Secretary, Minister of Health, Diana Atwine, as she decried tedious public service processes. She describes as bureaucratic legal procedures that public officers are subjected to by the Public Service Standing Orders. This prompted Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Olanya, to offer some legal guidance.
Someone does not perform, you cannot do anything. I have been to call to Parliament to explain why some people declined to give appointment. Someone comes and works 3 times a day, a month. But someone, you must be stuck with those ones. Even when you write and say, I reprimand, so what? I am permanent and pensionable.
There's something called the public policy cycle. You from the Ministry of Health propose a budget to us about how much money you need to do what. And you are specific about what you are going to do with that money. And we come, we look at it, and we agree, give them that money. And we appropriate by law that this money is for this purpose. This money is for this purpose. So, Madam Permanent Secretary, if you went and started changing them without following the laws, you are in trouble.
These concerns come amid reports of continuous underfunding and delayed sending of budget allocations to local governments, which affects service delivery.
There is no way you can run with your legs tied and you think you can make progress. There is no way. So we as a country must determine that we, the citizens of the country, are responsible for developing it. And if we are comfortable with 30% performance, that's the performance we shall get as a nation. So I think, in my view, one of the major ways is for us to make an efficient and accountable civil service.
And Act 176(2)G provides that local governments must participate in the supervision of those who are doing services in local governments, as well as monitoring all projects and programs. Are local governments doing it? And if they are not doing it, why? What is the problem? Who is responsible?
Even as the governance, accountability, participation and performance program is ending, development partners from USAID and DFID affirm commitment towards Uganda's development.
And I would be remiss if I didn't note, at least in passing, that according to the local government performance assessment, 5 of the top 10 performing districts in Uganda are districts where GAP has operated, and we've heard this. This includes Adjumani district, which ranked number one in the nation.
Thing is, there's 40 million Ugandans, and therefore our spending is £2.50 each. Sorry, I'm talking in pounds. In shillings, that's about 12,500 shillings per person. That is not enough. It's the Ugandan government and the Ugandan civil society that will determine development in this country. So we need to know that we're working with the right partners. I will be seeking an early meeting with the Permanent Secretary of Health to better understand your needs and see how we can help.
GAP, as it is popularly known, is a 7-year-old program that has been running since 2012 with focus on accountability and good governance. The DFID and USAID aided initiative has been running in 40 districts of Uganda. Henry Okurut, UBC.
As you could see there, those are matters of accountability in service, public service. And of course, it was more in the areas of governance assessment. Now turning to human rights, the chairperson, Uganda Human Rights Commission, Dr. Medi Kagwa, has told members of parliament to go slow in their quest to ascertain what happens in safe houses because there are military installations. Dr. Medi Kagwa made these remarks during his interaction with Parliamentary Committee on Human Rights on Wednesday to share the experience and knowledge of the Commission about the alleged existence of illegal detention centers within the country.
Up as members of parliament accused the officials of Human Rights Commission, headed by Medi Kagwa, for not being independent as required by the law. The legislators wanted the commission to share information on the status of safe houses, the number of people in detention, and what happens inside the torture cells. Dr. Kagwa said the commission heard about the existence of safe houses, but it is yet to visit any of them since it is a requirement for the Uganda Human Rights Commission.
Do you think of how you can defend the constitution in your position? Because with your position, we believe you have a chance to come out, have stamina, have strength and wisdom, and try and defend the constitution.
Should remain consistent with the law. That if somebody is detained in an ungazetted place, that place should be closed. We want to hear it from you so that we take it up as your committee.
When your day comes, you know our importance. When you went to Nalfenia, it's no longer there. Why don't you give us that small credit? A balance sheet has assets and liabilities. We can't say we are perfect at all. We can't. Neither are you. But we have done something good. Let us be respected.
He, however, declined to divulge information regarding facilities the commissioners have ever visited, saying that as a senior government officer who swore the oath of secrecy, there are things he cannot say in presence of the press.
To commit persons who disobeyed your orders as a commission to prison, have you invoked that clause?
I'll be guarded. How can I go with the people when I'm serving? People are my guards. That alone should indicate to you, honorable members, we work for everybody in this country. And the Paris principles are very clear. And police don't think being on radio is helping people. No. Again, I'm constrained by the press, because I've said my mind to you members, but the press constrains me. I can't say many things. But I can tell you, NHRIs worldwide work with the authority in their respective departments.
To their cases. And then it looks like the victims are now running to members of parliament. Have they lost confidence in the commission? And finally, as per your report, it appeared like you are not aware of the existence of these houses, safe houses. because you said you have heard about the Kengera one, and you are just planning to visit the one of Kalang.
Members of Parliament, however, asked why commissioners have to seek permission before accessing detention centres. Kalungu West Member of Parliament, Honourable Joseph Sewungu, advised the Uganda Human Rights Commission, Haji Medikagwa, and members to resign because they have failed to serve the country as required by the Constitution.
Mr. Sozi, Medi, and your team, I'm totally disappointed. If you were true Muslim, you get a person and resign from this job. I'm saying this from the bottom of my heart. Madam Chair, let me ask these people, whom are you working for? Because the Constitution says you are independent. You cannot be driven by anybody. But whom are you working for? When you continue hiding facts that are even seen by everybody.
Meanwhile, Dr. Kagwa, shortly after the committee sitting, informed media that they are about to close 11 of their branches due to lack of funds. Report compiled by Gloria Gutabenji in Parliament.
Now that's the chairman of the Uganda Human Rights Commission. They're being grilled by members of Parliament. Now moving on to the Chabazinga coronation, the Katukiro of Busoga, Dr. Joseph Muvawala, has asked Busoga region leaders to champion the fight against early marriages and uphold the Busoga culture. The call comes as the region prepares for the 5th coronation anniversary of the Chabazinga of Busoga. The Minister for Culture says that the Chabazinga's 5th anniversary is centered on fighting early marriages and bridging the poverty gap within the region.
William Gabulana Diop IV was enthroned as the Chabazinga of Busoga on 13 September, just 2 days away. Chabazinga Wilberforce Nadiope will be celebrating his 5th anniversary as the Chabazinga of Busoga in Butagaya sub-county, where the event is scheduled to take place. Preparations for the event are ongoing.
Everything has been put in place for the smooth running of this occasion. So we're going to Busoko follows where we will be opening it officially.
A medical camp has been held at Butagaya, where the kingdom subjects have been given free medical aid.
We are performing activities of general medical care. We are performing activities of immunization, family planning. We are doing HIV testing and counseling.
The Minister for Culture in Busoga Kingdom has argued Busoga Kingdom to fight increased early marriages among adolescents.
It is the initiative and the Chabazinga Busoga through its Ministry of Health and even the Ministry of Gender. We are trying to see that the people, most especially the girl child, is prevented, is being helped to see that she cannot get married when she's not yet in that age bracket.
President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is expected to attend the function this Friday. Chabazinga Wilberforce William Gabulana Diop was enthroned Chabazinga of Busoga years later after the death of his father Wakwa Muloke. Susan Naonga reporting. It's 5 years since the Chabazinga of Busoga.
From Busoga over to Busongora Kingdom, the King of Busongora, His Royal Majesty Omukama Ndahura II Kashagama, said that the kingdom is to embark on documenting their altered history after the 1891 and 1931 colonial displacement. Omukama Ndahura II also thanked government for returning about 15,000 acres of Busongora land for resettlement.
In 2007, government returned about 15,000 acres of land to the Busongora Kingdom to resettle the displaced subjects. The Busongora were displaced by the colonialists between 1891 and 1931, a venture that tainted the history of the kingdom. The king of Busongora, Omukama Ndahura II Kashagama, says the kingdom is focused on reviving their heritage and rewriting Busongora history.
And it's been a challenge to try and get all this information out. So we're now producing an orthography, working on producing an orthography and a dictionary, so that we can give it to schools.
Commander Ndahura II emphasized their goal to ultimately become a model kingdom if his subjects economically engage in several developments to emulate their ancestors. Commander Ndahura II said they are writing the Busongora orthography and asks government to adopt it into the national curriculum, as it emphasizes continuous support for community projects.
A dictionary, so that we can give it to schools. Hopefully the National Curriculum Board can adopt it for a textbook.
And we thank our God so much for the visitors who came to fundraise for us, more especially the King of Busongora. He also was with us, and we thank him for his contribution, because for him, he contributed cash 1 million.
The Busongora originally came from the Chwezi dynasty of western Uganda and eastern Congo. Predominantly, the Busongora settled in mountainous areas and terrains. They are largely pastoralists, salt manufacturers, among other economic activities.
And right across this valley is the Queen Elizabeth National Park. So Busongora are very protective of animals. We have a taboo against killing animals, against hunting, so we don't hunt. But if a hunter chases an animal to your house, you have to protect the animal.
Activities. Story filed by Modachi Wycliffe, UBC News.
Now, issues to do with Kawesi suspects fracas ensued this afternoon at the Kololo Best International Crimes Division of High Court during the rearrest of some of Kawesi's suspects. 4 of the 8 suspects charged with the murder of the former police spokesperson Andrew Kawesi Felix had just been released on bail. They are Yusuf Nyanzi, Jibril Kalyango, Joshua Chambade, and Yusuf Mugerwa, among others.
After being granted a temporary release, the 4 expressed joy and happiness, saying it was an opportune moment to breathe some fresh air. However, this moment was short-lived as they were picked up together with their lawyer, James Mubiru. They had just been discharged by the Registrar of the International Crimes Division of High Court, Esther Nansambu, following their bail release by Justice Lydia Mugambe. To soil their afternoon were both uniformed and plain-clothed security officers who counted the main gate of the court to block the suspects from leaving.
Basose kwogera naffe nga bagamba tukirizise ba client babatwale bwaba tugambe nti bateeko batwala ne bagamba nze ndi lawyer bwempoleza omuntu kooti nemutaseeko baana na muntu ate kukola ki omutwala oba wevunaana omuntu muvunaani abali abana bazzeeyo eruzira kubanga balina emisango emirala emukono ne nabweru naye bano tebabalinaako musango tebabalinaako nsonga.
They bundled the suspects in the super custom and whisked them away. The remaining suspects, including Abdul Rashid Mbazira, Ramadan Nordin Higenyi, Burhan Balyejusa, and Shafiq Kasuja, had earlier on been returned to Ruzira prisons because they have pending charges in Naweru and Mukono Magistrates Court. All this dates back to the assassination of former Assistant Inspector General of Police Andrew Felix Kawesi, his bodyguard Kenneth Erwao, and his driver Godfrey Mwambewa on the fateful day of 17th March 2017 in Kulambiro, Nakawa Division, a stone throw away from late Kawesi's home. After being granted a
Thank you very much there, Dorcas Kimono. In the areas of UPDF, Gulu Archdiocese received 2,500 tree seedlings from the Uganda People's Defense Forces as part of a boost to their environmental cover competition held among the districts under the Diocese of Greater North annually. Episcopal Vicar Gulu Vicarage Reverend Monsignor Dr. Lawrence Komakech, who received the tree seedlings of Molino, said that the donation would help them in adding their strength in the yearly competition of the diocese tree plant record.
Trying to keep the country green and to fight global warming, you know. Oh yeah. And so I was very impressed when I heard from him that he is coming this week to bring for us seedlings. So I immediately quickly organized where to plant these seedlings because I know the benefits. You can see that when you come to the church here, the environment looks different.
The first time I entered the North in 1986, there were many mangoes along the roads. We used not to even cook lunch. Everywhere you'd go, you'd find mangoes, but it's unfortunate now you no longer see them. People have cut them completely, and they are cutting them. And the rate of cutting is too high. Because if you see now, for example, if they are cutting at the rate of 90%, and the rate of planting is like 0.1. So we request for those who are cutting the area, let them think about our future, think about our, if they know, maybe for them they are old, but what about our children, our grandchildren?
Now a bit of sad news there happening in Mityana. The body of a boda cyclist has been recovered in Mityana, abandoned in a bush. Now the deceased has been identified as Kabanda Ivan, a boda cyclist in Kayabwe, Mpigi district. The deceased went missing and was being looked for by his friends and family members. Boda cyclists have, however, been cautioned to always be vigilant while on duty. In another development, residents in Mityana have bid farewell to the new Archbishop Stephen Kazimba. The Archbishop-elect warned politicians against politics of underdevelopment and advised them to always be patriotic if they are to serve the people they represent diligently. Kazimba said he is ready to serve, but urged Christians to pray for the work of his hands. Now, Tororo Malaba police are currently stranded with over 20 Congolese refugees 2 weeks after their interception at Uganda-Kenya Malaba border. The refugees were intercepted on the 29th of last month while attempting to cross to Kenya through Malaba border, as we hear more in this report.
These are some of the 27 Congolese nationals who were intercepted last month at Uganda-Kenya border by police as they were trying to cross to Kenya through Malaba border. At Malaba police post, the group, which is comprised of mainly malnourished children, is apparently struggling to make ends meet. These refugees spend the night in Malaba police post offices and shift the tree sheds during day. Wamungu Mango, one of the refugees, owes their decision of sneaking into the country to the hearsays about Uganda and Kenya having several refugee camps.
Siku kuchimbia tukwende kwa Uganda yuko mzuri. Tunakuja polisi na kamati na tupeleka hapa.
She narrates their current challenges, including food and shelter.
Wachimbizi na Uganda yuko banakamata modokari na tunakuja naye. Modokari napeleka kwa barabara.
The regional police commander, Bukedi region, Julius Tusingwire, confirms the presence of the refugees, adding that investigations are ongoing to establish their true status.
We are getting information, first of all, from them and from other sources to exactly identify them and also find out their intention of crossing to Uganda or why they are moving out and how they entered Uganda.
Tusingwire, however, says should the group fail to be identified as refugees, the law will catch up with them accordingly. The 27 refugees, 5 adults and 22 children, are believed to have come from Kivu province in Congo through Kampala and then to Malaba border in Tororo.
Now, government and non-government organizations need to refocus efforts towards ensuring universal access to safe water. A report released by the Uganda Water and Sanitation NGO network shows that 75% of Ugandans have access to improved water sources, but there exists disparities in terms of distribution.
According to the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, 90% of the world's population has access to improved water sources, and in Uganda, 70% of Ugandans have access to clean water. The Sustainable Development Goal 6 envisages a situation where every individual has access to safe and clean water by 2030. Although there's been a lot of improvement in terms of accessing clean water by the Ugandan population, a lot needs to be done to ensure equitable access to water sources.
But I think also us as CSOs want to come to start having that constructive dialogue with the service providers, especially National Grant Sewage Corporation. In spite of having there are different categories of tariffs for different households, or even for commercial utilities. But is this still adequate, or there is still need for me, who is a resident in Kampala, having the same tariff as a woman who is based in maybe Kotido and just received the household connection, having the same tariff as me? I think that's where the discussion needs to go, and so that we make sure that everyone has access that's affordable and is clean and is there 24 hours.
As government strives to ensure that all Ugandans have access to safe and clean water, there's still a funding gap to responsible entities like Ministry of Water and Environment, which gets about 3% of the national budget.
We are saying leave no one behind. How about the other 25% that is not part of the 100 that is using improved water sources? The other finding that we see within this report is that when we look at households that are able to access water through a pipe, because this is probably the safest way to get clean and safe water, we see that in the rural areas we have 11% that say that they're able to get water from that source, and then 42% in the urban areas, which does definitely show us that there is a gap, that these piped water services need to go further to cover those in the rural areas.
However, as the struggle of availing safe water to Ugandans continues, there's also need for awareness creation about water hygiene management. A report released by Uganda Water and Sanitation NGO network shows that many Ugandans suffer from hygiene-related diseases like typhoid and dysentery. For UBC, Helen Barbara, Gisamba.
News Tonight continues after this break.
Every dream has a challenging journey. Ours began in 1998 with a mission to drive the development of a robust communications sector in Uganda. We created structures to champion the dream. We've evolved, made discoveries, supported great minds, empowered Ugandans, and fostered a vibrant culture, enabling communication for all. Down the years, we've created memories and networks, uniting generations and building great partnerships. Together, we can go even further. UCC, celebrating 20 years of achievements.
The people of Karamoja in Uganda, Turkana and West Pokot in Kenya have similar cultures and face similar challenges such as drought, food insecurity and shortage of water and pasture for their animals. On Thursday, 12 September 2019, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni of Uganda and President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya will be in Itakwai, Moroto, to launch a major program of sustainable peace and development. This program is supported by government of Uganda and Kenya, development partners, the United Nations, the private sector, and civil society. All members of the public are invited. Please be there by 7:30 a.m. Supported by government of Uganda and United Nations.
Have you completed Senior 4 or Senior 6 and you want to do a 2-year certificate or a diploma course? Makerere Institute for Social Development, an affiliate to Makerere Business School, offers programs in accounting and finance, business administration, procurement and supplies management, social work and social administration, information technology, counseling and guidance, human resource, project planning and management, journalism, secretarial studies, and many others. We are located on Sir Apollo Kegwa Road, next to Oilcom Petrol Station, with a UBTEP Center number.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pain Arena. Introducing on the right corner, Mr. Action, the reigning heavyweight champion in the ring against
the Headache, the #1 contender. And the bell rings.
Headache charges forward with a steady right and a left hook. Action dodges. He misses out with an inch. Wait a minute. Mr. Action launches back with a kick. The final blow. He is out.
If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Does heartburn stop you from eating the things you love? Eating too fast, alcohol or spicy food can trigger acidity, heartburn, indigestion or flatulence. Your best bet is Better Cool. Better Cool works fast to relieve acidity, heartburn and indigestion. Trust Better Cool. Enjoy life.
If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Welcome to the business desk. Now starting off with infrastructure financing. Technocrats, economists and legislators from the continent have converged at Imperial Botanical Hotel in Entebbe to deliberate and find solutions on Africa's over-reliance on external borrowing. The Pan-African Conference comes at a time where there is increased debt burden on the African continent, and this definitely causes economic distress, as we hear more.
Uganda, like many other African economies, has resorted to external sources to fund the road and energy sector projects. These projects are of fundamental importance in enhancing economic growth and development. However, concerns are emerging on the cost of processing and servicing such debts.
We need to shed light, and I think that's the purpose of the conference. See how much light we can shed on these very complicated issues and assist ourselves and other generations in improving debt, and particularly in reducing debt commitment and making sure that future debt is cost-effective and sustainable.
The stock of public debt has risen over the years from 39 trillion shillings in the financial year 2017-2018 to 42 trillion shillings in the financial year 2018-2019, with external debt alone valued at 25 trillion shillings. Analysts argue that although debt is not bad for an economy, failure to service the loans compounded with an insatiable borrowing appetite can lead to distress.
I've also read in the footnotes of the Exim Bank financing, they are giving us money in expectation of some exports. And of course, this includes oil. So I don't want to imagine we are already mortgaging our minerals and oil, because I've seen that in the Chinese agreement.
So having your own national debt sustainability analysis will give you a broader and bigger picture of your ability to handle amounts of debt at any given point.
It is against this background that the first Pan-African Conference on Public Financing for Health and Road Infrastructure in Africa is being held in Uganda.
Out of the 54 African countries, only 8 have got debt sustainability, which is a little okay, but the rest of the countries, they are having a lot of debt distress.
The problem is how we manage these debts and what does these debts serve when they come to our countries.
It's obvious that infrastructure development is a fundamental driver of economic growth and development. However, participants concur that decisions made on how borrowed resources are utilized determines the extent to which financial freedom is gained to facilitate slipping out of the debt burden. Dennis Igawa for UBC News in Entebbe.
And in the oil and gas industry, the Uganda National Oil Company, UNOC, has trained oil and gas service providers on how to meet the required standards as demanded by the sector. Herbert Ntale, the quality controller of Uganda National Oil Company, says that over 90% of the local construction companies in the sector lack international technical expertise.
The recent industrial baseline survey stipulates some of the critical areas that require immediate attention to boost oil and gas industrial requirement. Uganda National Oil Company encourages local supporters to oil and gas sector to identify available gaps that need to be filled to meet international standards. This happened in a special training for local petroleum service providers.
About 92% of people out of each 100,000 people on a construction site are actually in major accidents, including fatalities where people die. And the majority of the death arises from people falling from height due to poor scaffolding. These people do not use standard scaffolds, they use eucalyptus trees type.
Quality, health, safety and environment policy is key in the oil and gas production as a basis to benefit all relevant Ugandan service providers and individuals.
Oil and gas, we have zero tolerance to accidents and incidents. And that high rate, as I mentioned, is associated to this company not having a robust quality, health, safety and environment management system. And as I mentioned, that system is also a legal requirement. There are safety requirements. There are building standards and regulations that most of these construction companies do not abide to.
Suppliers to the sector raised the policy, infrastructure, and lack of access to finance, among other issues, for special attention.
To push such an agenda, because trust me, QHS has a financial implication.
What is our plan for our country beyond the oil?
Meanwhile, Minister of Finance Matia Kasaija clarified about the trending information concerning Uganda's petroleum exploration agreement.
The talks have not collapsed. No, we are still discussing. What has happened, the agreement where Total and Talo were to have concluded has got what? Has expired. But it has not closed. How they can resume that contract and then we continue finding a way on how we can extract that oil and get our first oil.
The industrial baseline survey recommends that existing institutions need to be more oriented on oil and gas qualifications to match industrial requirements. Abdul Nasir Luwama for UBC News.
In rice production, about 400 rice producers from 57 companies are unemployed following a VAT exemption by Uganda Revenue Authority to 14 companies from a High Court ruling that issued an injunction, and this has stayed for about 5 years. Now, while receiving a petition from the Rice Business Sector Association Limited, the Speaker of Parliament, Rebecca Kadaga, pledged to engage the Attorney General to give an explanation and to provide a way forward on this court injunction.
Rice production has reduced by 60,000 metric tons between 2017 and 19, and this situation is not about to come to an end since farmers in Padey are out of production. The statement read to the Speaker of Parliament about tax discrimination in the rice sector indicates that 48,000 Ugandan millers are without jobs. Uganda Revenue Authority exempted VAT to 14 rice companies, not only leading to revenue loss of 36 billion Ugandan shillings, but also crippling a tune of 57 local companies.
Companies went to court and sued the URA. URA won the case. These people again went and appealed to the court. When they appealed, they requested for a stay of injunction, and it was awarded to them in 2014. Up to now, it is still there.
Members of this association have petitioned the Speaker of Parliament to have all rice importing companies pay 18% VAT as per the VAT Act, and also handle the court matter expeditiously, since it is the most stumbling block to bring sanity to the rice sector.
On the above said civil suit should be removed because it is no longer a temporary injunction, it is now a permanent injunction, 5 years. There should be a leveling playing field in the rice sector for all rice stakeholders. URA should charge the same tax as applicant to all without discrimination.
The appeal by 14 rice companies gives them monopoly to import rice and blocks 57 companies from working. The Speaker of Parliament has promised to have their petition presented before the House immediately.
Petition presented to the floor, but at the same time to demand an explanation from the Attorney General about this temporary permanent injunction, because 5 years is no longer, injunction is supposed to address a short-term measure to require the Attorney General to explain what's happening to this matter. We shall not be sub judice because we are just asking what's the way forward.
Meanwhile, rice producers from Bolambuli have expressed dissatisfaction with the National Environment Authority chasing smallholder farmers out of the wetland and giving 10,000 acres of wetland to investors.
I'm talking about 200,000 metric tons of rice produced in Eastern region. And if we, the small-scale farmers, are being chased out of the wetland, where are you going to get this rice from for consumption? Secondly, as government is chasing small-scale farmers from the wetland, at the same time, it is parceling out lowlands to some of the companies who are benefiting from the tax exemption to grow rice in the wetland.
With this situation, the country stands a chance of losing the regional market. I'm Nafka Farida, reporting in Kampala.
And on the international scene, the body of Robert Mugabe has left Singapore on a private flight destined for his home country in Zimbabwe. The former president had been receiving hospital treatment in the city-state before he died last week, aged 95. Mr. Mugabe was Zimbabwe's first leader after independence in 1980. He held on to power for almost 4 decades before being ousted in a coup d'etat in 2017. He will be buried on Sunday after a state funeral on Saturday. The specially chartered flight carrying Mugabe's body is expected to land in his home country at 3 p.m. according to family members. Mugabe is then expected to lie in state at Rufaro Stadium in Harare. Then at a state funeral will happen at the 60,000-seat stadium. And in sports, all roads will this weekend lead to the National Technical College Lira, where the Volleyball Club Championship will take place. Uganda's top volleyball teams take part in the championship, whose individual best in each gender will represent Uganda in continental engagements. And in other sports, Federation Internationale Cinema Television Sports FICTS has launched the 13th edition of the two-day Kampala International FICTS Festival that climaxes on the 12th of September 2019 at Tal Cottages in Kabusu. Sports federations were cautioned to work hand in hand with sports journalists, as Hajat Aisha Namanda, the guest speaker, asserts. She also urged the government to work with federations for the better of sport.
The Ugandan Volleyball Federation.
Here and be part of these prestigious festivals. I believe media and sports cannot go separate ways. They move hand in hand.
Doing a great job bringing journalists together to see that they can be able to produce films and documentaries and anything that can be used to profile our athletes and great legends. So I think it's long overdue. We need to get together as federations and sports leaders to engage and work with journalists who are dealing with sports to profile our players, to profile our activities, so that the next generation will be able to appreciate the journeys that we've taken. On the side of FICTS, working with federations and also the government, I believe the government should be able to come and support it, the federations as well as FICTS in this endeavor, to ensure that the image portrayed is not only for us as federations of FICTS, but it's for the country. We need to profile our players, be able to sell ourselves out. So I urge government to come into this endeavor, partner with us to see that we can be able to achieve this, so that we have something profiled, we have something archived for the future generation.
And the 13th FICTS edition does bring us to the end of News Tonight. It is 54 minutes past 10 o'clock. Let us have the recap of the headlines and then we can wind up. Human Rights Commission advises Parliament to go slow on safe houses. In Parliament, Olanya Atwine disagree on public service. Kawesi murder suspects rearrested outside court. And on borders, Malaba police stranded with Congolese refugees. In other news, Pan-African Conference tackles date burden. Thank you so much for choosing us. That does bring us to the end of News Tonight. My name is Patricia Lukoma. Mugalu Mohammed has been on sign language from the entire team. It's a good night, but UBC continues. Stay with us.
Well, dear friends, every day this week I'm starting the program with these verses that shows to you how much justice, or how can God bring justice for all those who cry out before him. Let us read this proverb. Evil men do not understand the justice, but those who seek the Lord understand all. If you seek, you find justice. If you seek for the Lord, you find justice. If you seek for help from above, you will find justice. If you seek the Spirit of God, you will find justice. So I'm inviting you to take part of one of our meetings here at the Universal Church of the Kingdom of God, as this person took part and overcame, in Jesus' name.
At the Universal Church of the Kingdom of God.
Before I came to God, my life was like a complete mess. I was looking for something in the parties. I was looking to belong, and I used to go with my friends, and with that same group of friends we would then go out and we would terrorize people, we'll beat people up for literally no reason. Because I grew up quite aggressively, so I would also have my own fights where I wouldn't even want my friends to get involved. It was usually with girls, to do with guys, and especially when I felt like they were disrespecting me, then it would become a really big thing. I even put a girl in hospital once, and that was like the worst moment, because they barged into my house looking for me, and my family were just really scared. I also used to steal. I used to steal quite a lot, and I would steal and I would sell everything for half price. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night at all. I would then have to go to school and sleep at school to compensate for the sleep I haven't had. Only when the sun came up, then I might be able to get a few hours in, but that was me every single night. I was always scared. And when I could, I would watch pornography until I could go to bed. And if I couldn't, then I would just do it during the day. And I did that for like 7 years. And it just changed the way I saw people. And that was my life before I came to God. My life has changed a lot. I don't watch pornography anymore. That was one of the hardest things to stop doing, but it was one of the first things I did stop. I don't fight anymore. I don't go to parties. I don't look for happiness in places where I know I'm not going to find it. My family's changed. We've come together. A lot of things have changed. Even my finances has changed as well. I managed to buy a car that I really love, and something it's always been the car I wanted as my first car. I have also got a really good job, and there's progression for my career, and they're offering to pay for my studies as well, so everything's going really well.
Join us for a moment of prayer.
Let us now talk to God in your behalf. My Lord, in the name of your Son Jesus, I call upon the God of justice, the God, the creator of heaven and earth. You can bring justice to this person. You can restore life to those who are troubled. You can bless those who are in need, those who are in suffering. My God, transform this water into power to release this person from the pain, the sickness, disease. My Lord, maybe this madam is tired of suffering. Maybe this man is tired of living a life like this.